Shalom Israel. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, blessings to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha, Wadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing with truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And I wanted to do a response video to this article right here that I found from thepeoplesvoice.com. As you see right there, Wendy Williams leaks tape showing cannibal Ellen DeGeneres feasting on black child meat. And really, this should come as no surprise. And the reason why I say that is because these Edomites have been feasting on Israelite meat or Israelite bodies, which is cannibalism, really going all the way back to the 1900s. Well, before the 1900s, okay, where they were kidnapping, and when I say Israelites, the Israelites are the Negro, Latino, and Native Indians. So they've been kidnapping Israelite adults, children, women, elderly people, and so forth. And even when they had us in hardcore slavery, they was committing cannibalism. Okay, the original Thanksgiving, okay, going way back to when the conquistadors had conquered Gad and killed them off, right? The original Thanksgiving, they was having a feast feeding on so-called North American people, okay? Where the stuffing was supposed to be the brain matter, the cranberry sauce was supposed to be the blood, the chitlins was supposed to be the intestines or the entrails. So, they've been eating our people. Okay, and of course, that's a screenshot that I've taken. I have another one right here. Okay, the People's Voice. Hold on. Oh, I see. Okay, so then you come over here, right? It says it's official. Wendy Williams has declared war on Ellen DeGeneres. She says Ellen is a psychopathic Satanist who eats children. Okay. And, if she's coming out with this type of sensitive information, more than likely it's because they want her to. Because let's just to say if she did leak sensitive information like this, they could easily have her deleted, rather if it's through human sacrifice, because that's what all these Illuminati members do. They all commit sacrifices, And when they sacrifice people, especially children, they sacrifice them unto their gods, their idols that they worship. Okay? You got the cremation of care, where you got children being sacrificed to Molech. You see? And There's all kind of sick and demonic things that happen to children before they are sacrificed. You know, first they're scared to death. You know, they're getting molested. They're being terrified by grown-ass adults wearing scary demonic masks. And then at last, when the child is terrified enough, they cut open the child's skull and they take out the pineal gland and they drink the adrenochrome. Now, if that don't happen to the child, they get sacrificed to their idols. Okay? And that's to the idols of these so-called Illuminati members. Well, to these left-handed Illuminati members, excuse me, not so-called, these left-handed Illuminati members. And Wendy Williams is not just this also innocent woman herself, okay? In order for her to get up in those high positions, she too had to do some very demonic shit. Rather, she had to drink blood, she had to have trains ran on her, she had to sacrifice a family member. So she ain't so innocent either. Salah. I want to open up the Blue Letter Bible here. Okay. Because ultimately, this is a wicked and a heavy demonic rulership that we are currently under. Okay, let's go to what is it? Psalms 58. Is it Psalms 58? Okay, let's see. Then let's type in throne of iniquity, and let's see what pops up here, gang. Okay, Psalms 94 and 20. Okay, it says, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by law? Okay. And when you read the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24, it says what? The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Now, when you go to First Maccabees, the first chapter, it tells you that after Alexander the Greek died, his 4 generals, Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and Seleucid, had put crowns on themselves. Not that they actually put crowns on themselves, but basically they made themselves rulers. And what happened shortly after? Evils were multiplied in the earth. Because these Edomites, they were custom made and tailored to doing evil. That's why evils were multiplied in the earth. So we're literally living under the throne of iniquity. Okay? And under the throne of iniquity, people's understanding and perception of reality, how things are said or worded, is going to be corrupted. It's going to be twisted. Okay? We live in the midst of a very forward and evil generation. Now, with that being said, let's tap into this book that I found called The Delectable Negro. Download it. Okay. So, this is a book called The Delectable Negro. And in this book, it goes into how so-called black slaves, namely, and it was mainly the Southern Kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, who were the main victims of this, okay? You know, and in which some of our people were literally cooked alive. You know, Esau didn't just give them a quick deletion. No, they were cooked alive until the spirit left their body. Then Esau wanted to roast it, season it, you know, season an arm, a leg, a foot, a hand, and eat it, basically. And when you watch that movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Esau is showing you his true nature, how he don't give a damn about eating human meat, okay? They store body parts in jars. They put them in the closets, in refrigerators, which they resorted to cannibalism after what was it? The mayor of the city decided to desert the village, the town, or whatever. And so basically, the last meat shop was closed in that movie, and basically they had no other way of getting food. So you know what they used to do? They used to they would lure young teenagers back to their crib, where you would never hear from them again, because they were smothered, hog-tied, and then eventually left to be chopped up somewhere inside the basement. So, in this book called The Delectable Negro, it goes into how Edomites, which the biblical Edomites would be the self-proclaimed white man, it goes into how the Edomites would literally feast on Negroes, which in this case will be Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, seeing that in the New Testament as a collective, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were all called Judah. Judah just meant the Southern Kingdom at the time, okay? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, in which so-called Negroes come from the tribe of Judah, West Indians, or, you know, AKA Jamaicans, come from the tribe of Benjamin, and Haitians come from the tribe of Levi. So those of Negroid descent were victims of the delectable Negro, where their flesh will be feasted upon. Some were boiled alive in pots, you know, until their skin, their flesh was softened. Then Esau would chop up their body, turn it into food, you know. And we also can't forget about how they made grease out of Nat Turner. So, you know, Edomites are evil, they're sick, and they are demented. You know, and if you're fooled by their smile to where you're being lured to being their friends and you're going to their house, oh, well, don't say we did not warn you. Because at any given moment, Satan can turn on that kill switch inside that Edomite and basically take that person out. And there's many articles and stories of Israelites, Negro, Latino, or Native Indians who had so-called white friends, who had Edomites, self-proclaimed white people, as friends. Okay? And a couple of months later, or maybe even a couple of years later, you never heard from these so-called Negro, Latino, or Native Indians again. Nobody knows where they went. Nobody knows what happened to them. They, they somehow they just, up and disappeared, right? Like the latest story of this Jake, this so-called black person. I think he had 3 other so-called white friends. And he fell into the ocean. Okay? Nobody knows if he was pushed into the ocean, if he decided to jump in thinking he could swim and, or while he was drowning, nobody decided to help him. But he's no longer with his family anymore, okay? Do I have to tell you the story of all the nigger women? All the nigger women who had so-called white Edomite boyfriends? Okay? And basically they got deleted by their own so-called white boyfriend. But I thought he was your lover. I thought he cared about you. What happened? I thought he loved you. He just turned around and deleted you. And there's several cases on that. Several. Not just 1, not just 2, not just 3, not just 4, not just 5. Several. Several cases of the ninja woman being deleted by the nigger woman being deleted by her so-called white boyfriend, which was an Edomite. Because no matter how hard Edomites try to hide their hatred, it always somehow come out. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this, okay? It says, the delectable Negro, human consumption. Now when they say human consumption, they're talking about us, okay? Because what does the word human mean? Well, when you break down the word human, you got the word hue, H-U, which means color, and then you got the word man. So you put hue and man together, what do you get? You get a man of color. And it was not just men of color they was eating, it was women of color too they were eating. If they weren't raping them, of course. Okay? So it says human consumption. And so-called white people don't have skin color. Okay? They don't have skin color. Their skin is translucent. That's why it's possible to see the white meat under their translucent skin. Okay, if you don't know what translucent skin is basically clear skin. There's no color to it. So if there's no color to your skin, that means that whenever you get angry, hot, upset, you get cold, you get embarrassed, you get smacked, your blood is going to show forth above the white meat under your skin, and you're going to start turning red. So so-called white people don't have a skin color, okay? And furthermore, the so-called white meat is not even white. It's like a beigeish color because of the blood. But in any case, okay, that's how we know that it's talking about us when they say humans, because Edomites don't have a skin color. Okay, you know how like when you get a deep graze on your arm for falling off a bike or a skateboard, and you start to see the white meat under your skin. Shortly, what comes after? Blood starts to rise above the white meat. This is what happens to so-called white people. Okay, when they stand out in a hot blazing sun too long, when they get cold, angry, embarrassed, when they get upset, they start to turn red because of the blood that shows forth under their skin. And this is why Esau is called Edom in the book of Genesis, the 36th chapter. Esau had no skin complexion. Okay? This is why so-called white people hate standing out in a hot blazing sun too long. Because the sheer heat from the hot blazing sun, what it's doing is it's literally cooking that raw meat that's under their translucent skin, because they don't have melanin to protect that so-called white meat that's under their skin. That's why they love the wintertime so much. The wintertime is like heaven to these Edomites. But you know, so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians, we are from the land of Israel. You know, we love it when it's warm or hot outside. You know, we hate the winter. You know, which is also another reason why, you know, the Lord bringing us over here to the Americas was a punishment, because it gets very cold over here in the wintertime. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and read this. All right, so I am back. Let's go ahead and read this. You know, and yeah, believe it or not, because these Edomites are a freak of nature, okay? They was having sexual relations with their victims, these men of colored victims, before cooking them alive and eating them. Okay? And these are just table contents, so bear with me. And I got to get ready to cross the street too, so again, bear with me. Oh yeah, and you know, since they're mentioning, you know, the African experience, you know, you should also know this, that a lot of these wicked practices goes back to the seed of Canaan. The Wada Yahweh shot for allowing me to cross the street safely. You know, a lot of these practices goes back to Ham, the Hamites, which Canaan, when you do your research on Canaan, the Heavenly Father gave us laws, statutes, and commandments to basically keep us from the ways of Canaan, because all the wicked practices that the Canaanites were doing, okay, them same practices went back to the Garden of Eden, which is why the Heavenly Father flooded the earth to begin with. So, you know, the Canaanites, which are predominantly Hamites, okay, they were practicing these type of things, you know, practicing cannibalism and the consumption of human flesh. And to confirm it, because the beloved brother Yashawamba, he made mention of the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 14th and 15th chapters, which I read both of them chapters. Those are really, really good edifying chapters, and it you know, it gives you a good idea of what the ancient Canaanites were doing. Okay, Now I would bring it out, Wisdom of Solomon, the 15th chapter, or the 14th or 15th chapter. But for now, let's just focus on this. Okay? So, you know, this is something you should be reading while I'm explaining stuff here. Let me see. Okay, editor's notes. It has been African American experience branched out and okay, so okay, let's see. Forward. The Delectable Negro is a provocative reading of race relations, visa or vise. Notice how the word visa is in there, right? Makes you wonder what visa on your Visa card really go back to. But it says viz and almost indiscernible homo erecticism. Yeah, homo erecticism, right? Now, when we all should know what it means when a man gets erected. So, I mean, think about that, right? Homo erecticism. So, yeah, well, I don't need to tell you of all the freaky deaky shit that was going on during these times, right? It says in the 19th century, according to Woodward, such homo erecticism was always already there, but our contemporary framing, and you know, bear with me because I am walking and reading this, framing of homosexuality has obscured our vision. Moreover, he suggests that the absence of an appropriate linguistic apparatus, the dearth of historical documentation, and the lack of the radical models with which to activate homo erecticism from our extant historical documents. Have all colluded to conceal the presence of this racialized libidinal dynamic. Shaman like Woodward, okay. And so let's see. I am still in denial about Vincent's passing because I feel his presence so viscerally. He was immediately recognizable as a gender queer that day in 1999 in Austin, where we first met in the coffee. Okay, moving on. I'm trying to get to wait. Let's get straight to the point. Let's see, introduction. Okay. Yeah. Showing you that the Canaanites were into that shit. You see? You got pictures right here of what appears to be an Edomite getting ready to be cannibalized. I don't know, man. Must be them lights. Okay, it says in Nigeria described his counter with a European cannibal in a manner laden with terror. I'm just looking out for cars here. Okay, in the Homo erectusism, the Sami is transported as a slave throughout many Western African regions. Slave traders finally bring him and a group of kinsmen to the homes of a white minister in Bathurst in 1818. So this is supposed to be a minister. A minister of who? Satan? The minister comes out of his home and surveys all of the slaves, right? They show you that in some of the movies. When the slaves would arrive to the slave master's home, right? They would survey the slaves by checking out their teeth, their eyes, making sure there was nothing damaged on them, no bruises, no marks, any of those things. You see? So that's what it means by they were, you know, the minister was basically a slave master, okay? A slave owner. Okay, and basically he was checking the slaves to make sure that there was no blemish. Okay? The minister comes out of his home and surveys all of the slaves. He takes a marked interest in Isami, who recalls that the man took hold of my hand and drew me into his house. According to Isami and the other Africans assembled, the white man strongly desires him, takes a delectable interest in this Bormu man. Now remember, before they started calling us colored folks, before they started calling us niggers, before they started calling us Negroes, before they started calling us black, they was calling us Africans, okay? And this was around the hardcore slave trading area. I mean, this was around the hardcore slavery era, okay? When they was calling us Africans. Because we were dwelling amongst the Hamites, which is biblical prophecy, because in 70 AD, we fled from Jerusalem. We fled from Jerusalem and we migrated to the western regions of Africa where we dwelt amongst them. Okay? So basically, during the Renaissance period, when we were being sold as slaves, we were being called Africans because we were dwelling amongst them. But just because we were dwelling amongst the Africans does not mean that we were Africans, because we were not. Okay? We are Hebrew Israelites who fled from our homeland, which is the land of Israel, in 70 AD, after suffering heavy Roman persecution by Titus under the orders of Vespasian. Who was the Caesar of Rome at the time. So you see this Edomite minister, he took a strong, delectable liking to this man that was being called African. Okay. It says the white man strongly desires him, takes a delectable interest in this born new man. The terrors and observations of the other enslaved African persons erupt into whispered rumor. The white man has taken Ali and put him into the house in order to slaughter him. Inside the house, Ali imagines his seducer wielding a phallic object, a long knife. If this white man edges of Isami's imagination, or let me see, it says if this white man if this white man takes a knife, he thinks to himself, and I see it in his hand, I will hold it. The threat of sexual domination and dismemberment hovers at the edges of Isami's imagination. The Africans translate white male phallic power over the effeminized African subject into an erotic appetite and eating. So, I mean, look, man, I don't think I need to read anymore. Okay? These Edomites are the devil that the Holy Scriptures speak of. And nothing is going to change that, man. So, hey, look, when we read about some guy named Ellen DeGeneres eating black child meat, all you got to do is remember the book, The Delectable Negro. Okay? They've been eating us, man. Now imagine when hell breaks loose and Jacob's trouble's in full effect. There's a lot of Edomites who could care less about eating some dark meat, right? So, yeah, man, we're going to need the covering and protection of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and of his son, Yahweh. And we live in a very dark and demonic society. Stay up, brothers. We're almost out of here. With that, I'm going to say shalom. It's on to the next one.